remember that we had you go through all the, how much you were drinking of what over what period of time. And with that information, we can figure what your level of intoxication is, what we would call your blood alcohol concentration or blood alcohol level.
Right.
And here it's expressed in milligrams percent. And you may be familiar with it, from DWI kinds of things as 0.08 or 0.10, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they had me at like 0.15 when I had my DUI.
Yeah. Well, I'll show you how to transfer that to this medical reading here. But just to give you an idea, in a typical week, they looked at the session that gave you your peak blood alcohol level for that typical week. And in that range, you were registering a 182 milligrams percent. So that would be 0.18 in a typical week of drinking.
Okay. So that's typical, like just average?
Yeah, what you reported is kind of your average week of drinking.
Okay.
You would be reaching the 0.18,
Okay.
which is, what, a little more than twice the legal limit.
Yeah, that's just pretty low legal limit. Tip, I don't feel drunk. I just if that's high or twice the legal limit, I don't go around feeling drunk.
Well, and that's an interesting observation. I know you talked about that earlier too, that you feel like you can hold your liquor pretty well.
Yeah, I've always been able to hold my liquor. I've won plenty of drinking games.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that because I think that's an important observation you're making there too. You also talked about heavier incidents of drinking, and so on a heavier day, for what you reported, we were seeing you at about a 0.25, 254 milligrams percent.
Okay. And so that what is that?
A little unclear about.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure. Like, what does that mean? 'Cause like I said, okay, heavier day. There are days where I drink enough where I get drunk. If partying a little bit long, and I'll get a little smashed. But that doesn't happen a lot, and I guess I'm a little unclear because I don't.
Okay. Well, just to put it in perspective a little bit, again, the typical drinker, the person who drinks. I guess what you would call the social drinker or whatever, normally stays in like a 0.02 to 0.06 range. So they never even get up to the legal limit for driving, the 0.08 or 0.10. So this is, like about 4 times higher than most people would ever get to. In fact, some people would pass out at that level.
Huh. I've always considered myself a social drinker.
Yeah, so this doesn't really fit with that picture then. Yeah. Well, another way to look at that is in terms of the tolerance can be a risk factor. And what I'm talking about with risk here is not, sort of like a guaranteed, hey, this means, that you're going to have problems with alcohol, but just, another piece of the picture that you may be able to use to sort out where you are with this can be an indicator that you may have additional risk related to your alcohol use. And in terms of looking at your tolerance here, you're in the very high range. It means that you've got an abnormally high tolerance to alcohol, that you can drink more of the alcohol and not feel the effects as much as you've observed.
Yeah, people have told me a lot that I could hold my liquor, and like I said before, I got pretty good at quarters.
Yeah, and maybe able to drive people home when they were more smashed. You'd mentioned that you were able to.
Yeah, it's like I said, I drink and have been able to drink a lot. Never feel too drunk unless I really hit it hard. But I don't know. I've always been able to hold it.
Yeah, well, and that's again a really, I think, important observation on your point. And a lot of folks in our society, we tend to think of that as being able to hold your liquor as being, that's pretty good thing. I must be in pretty good shape. However, we have to look at it as a risk factor here too, because in a sense, your body is not telling you when you're getting to these higher levels of intoxication. It's like you sort of lost a sensor that's saying, hey, we're getting, into slightly more risky range here. So it's kind of like being without a pain sensor, because in fact, at the levels that you're drinking here, you can be doing, some internal damage.
This is a trip.
So that's a little harder to...
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing's kind of hard to grasp. I mean, I don't know, it's confusing right now. I don't know what to think.
So it's kind of hard to put this together with what you've been thinking about your drinking.
Yeah, I was just going around thinking that I was just like everybody else. Just like all my friends.
Yeah. So a little disturbing to see that you're in an abnormal range.
A little. It's pretty disturbing.
Pretty upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You ready to take on the next bit here?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at it. I appreciate you hanging in there. I know this is hard stuff to look at sometimes. This next scale here has to do with the lifetime negative consequences of your alcohol and other drug use, okay? And it's important to note that this is comparing you to other men, but it's other men who are entering treatment for substance abuse, okay? So we're not looking at the whole population anymore. This is comparing you to other folks.
Alcoholics and stuff.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a little less concerned about the labeling, but these would be folks who are seeking help for alcohol-related or drug-related problems.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take a look at some of the individual scales here, and then we'll talk about the total here. Basically, this first column has to do with physical problems related to drinking or other drug use. So this would be hangovers, maybe withdrawal effects, or other kinds of physical problems, stomach upsets, all the way to more serious kinds of physical problems. And here you scored in the very low range, actually.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I feel fine, and all that other stuff with that BAC stuff is, kind of scaring me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel fine. That's much more. I like that.
Okay. So this seems to be in line with your perception of things, that you're not experiencing a lot of physical problems at this point. Okay. The next scale has to do with interpersonal problems, and these are the kinds of problems that are related to relationships with other folks, with family members. You've talked a little bit about your girlfriend and her concern for drinking and pot use.
It hasn't been going very well lately.
Yeah.
It's been pretty trashy.
Yeah. And relationship with other family members or friends, those kinds of things. And here you're falling in the medium range for folks who are entering treatment.
So.
Yeah, so again, comparing yourself to folks entering treatment, you're about at the average for those kinds of problems, that people tend to experience those.
Yeah, and I'm having my share of problems. I'm fighting all the time. And
Okay. So that also seems like it might be accurate to you.
yeah, that if that's what that means, we're having plenty of problems.
Yeah.
We're having plenty of problems. She's threatened to leave me a couple times, and it's part of why I'm here. I got the DUI thing, so I have to do it. But she's pretty stoked about this. She's pretty happy that the whole thing happened.
You mentioned that it was really important for you to keep that relationship.
Yeah, I got a kid with her, and I want to be a good father to my kid, and